Hi everyone, my name is Kathy P. Maglalang and I am here to present the evaluation of my five literature views, and I entitled this presentation as Beyond Success Stories. But before that, allow me to introduce my institution, that is Mindoro State University, and Minsu has offered wide range of opportunities for further growth of the whole Minsu family, and of course the Mindoreños having the first ever university in the province. It has been for the whole academic community to realize, waiting for this long sought dream, as the university is envisioned to be the first choice, premier, and global institution of higher learning in the province. It is focused on the attainment of strategic priorities in academic, governance, research extension, and development to continuously address the dynamic needs of its growing population. From my perspective and experience working within our university and knowing its CSR efforts, I see two very specific research areas. The first one is transparency and trust in CSR communication, and the second one is, of course, um, digital CSR communication as continuous loop. In our programs like community extension activities, livelihood training on environmental projects, I have noticed that communication usually depicts successes such as number of beneficiaries, activities conducted, or what are the outputs delivered. In actual implementation, there are gaps as well. Like sometimes there are low attendance from beneficiaries, and of course, delays in funds or materials. And there are also misalignment, not all the time, sometimes, between what the community needs and what we initially planned. What I find important is how we communicate these shortcomings. When we openly explain what didn't go well and why, it changes how partners and communities respond. Instead of questioning credibility, they become more understanding and even cooperative. So, this research of mine focused on how transparency, including admitting shortcomings, affect trust of partner communities, LGUs, and students, and whether honesty leads to stronger long-term partnerships in MINSU CSR programs. In Mindoro State University, CSR communication doesn't happen in just one phase. We use emails, Facebook pages, group chats, and reports or narrative reports. For example, even after a project is completed, communication continues. Beneficiaries send feedback through chat or comment in our Facebook page. We have partner request follow ups, updates our posts online, and there are also new concerns that may arise. Because of this, communication is not linear. It doesn't end at a culmination phase. Instead, it becomes a continuous loop where we keep adjusting based on real time responses. And my research, this research focused on how the digital platforms really reshape CSR communication in our institution and how ongoing interaction affects engagement, responsiveness, and program improvement. I have searched five literatures. The first one is authored by Morsing and Scholz 2006, and they explain that CSR communication becomes effective when organizations engage stakeholders and not just inform them. And in our institution, we do stakeholder engagement through consultations and coordination meetings. But the gap is the study focuses only on engagement. It does not explain what happens when we admit mistakes or shortcomings during that engagement. The second literature is authored by Combs 2007, and his study showed that transparency helps protect reputation, especially during crisis. In our institution, sometimes we apply this when issues arise in projects like implementation delays. And the gap here is that it entirely focuses on crisis situation. In Mindoro State University, shortcomings happen even when normal operations, not just crisis. There is little discussion on everyday transparency. And the third one is by Du et al. 2010, and they emphasize that CSR communication should highlight positive impacts on stakeholder support. Most of our reports and posts focus on accomplishments, number of trainings, participants, or beneficiaries, and the outputs. And the gap in this literature is that there is limited focus on communicating negative aspects, like what are the unmet targets or challenges, and which are very common in real implementation. The fourth literature is by Kim 2019, and this study highlighted that transparency improves credibility and trust. In Minsu, I have observed that when we explain issues clearly, partners tend to trust us more. And the gap here is the study does not deeply explain how specific actions like owning up to shortcomings influence trust building. Lastly, the literature of Ellerup Nelson and Thompson 2018, where they describe CSR communication as an ongoing process rather than a one time activity. This is very true in Minsu, since communication continues even after project completion. Although the literature explains continuity, it does not focus on how honesty about failures contributes to long term relationships and learning. And based on the literatures I have reviewed and my experience in Minsu, it seems that there is limited research on how openly admitting shortcomings in CSR communication affects trust among stakeholders in everyday non crisis situations, especially in state universities implementing extension programs. Because most of these studies focus on positive messaging, general transparency, crisis situations, but they did not focus on real day-to-day real day-to-day honesty about implementation gaps, how this shapes long-term trust and collaboration in academic CSR settings. And this is a future research direction that uh, future researchers should also focus on what are the um, shortcomings in CSR communication in state universities like our institution. And these are the references that I've used. And thank you very much for listening in my presentation.